I'm not new to collecting, but I'm relatively new to sending my books out to get them slabbed. And I wanted to try to help everybody avoid some of the mistakes that I've made. And during the course of this, I'll talk about some of the mistakes that I made initially. Hopefully I won't do the same mistakes. And after doing that, we'll see where we go. I have some books that I want to show that I'm getting ready to send on out, and I wanted to try to present them to everyone and see whether or not you agree with me that these are pretty decent books to send out. I've already made the decision that the books that I'm going to get prepared to be pressed and cleaned and then sent to CGC to get slabbed, I'm going to do it sight unseen. I'm not going to have them reviewed to see if they're 9.8s. I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. Whatever the grade is, the grade will be. Of course, I will hope for 9.8s, but if I don't get it, I don't get it. The books I think are in pretty decent shape. The ones that aren't, you know what? We'll find out what's what. To everyone that does not know what the process is, once you have your books, and all your books should be bagged and boarded, and my recommendation is to always make sure that you're going to bag with Mylar. I like Mylar. I think that it has less acids that have the opportunity to get into the paper and to change the color of the comic book. But sometimes it's expensive, so you always got to mind your pocket. And ultimately, that's what the bottom line is. You got to do whatever is cost effective for you. All right. Since we've just gotten off of seeing WandaVision, I wanted to show the first book and what I do in my process for getting it prepared. So I've already ordered some backings. This again, as I said, this book is bagged and boarded, but my preparation also entails going ahead and putting a backing on it. I'm going to send these books out to get what they call pressed and clean. I'm going to utilize a service that was recommended through one of the channels that I favor, that I look at all the time. It's called Spec Collectors. Spec is the guy is fantastic, and I would really recommend that whenever you have an opportunity that you listen to his channel, Spec Collector. He's full of a lot of great information on what it takes to actually prepare your collections, get them ready to go, and how to collect and how to monetize everything. He does a fabulous job with that. I folded this one over so that there's going to be a little tab in the back. I make sure that the edges of it are not hitting, and then I place it. Go ahead to all four corners. I make it a little bit taut. One of the things that you have to consider is that you do not put too much pressure on your spine, because you could cause yourself a spine tick that could cause you a grade or two. So try to avoid that. Once I've done that, this is pretty well positioned. Remember, I'm going to be sending these books out to get them graded. Now, again, my good friend Spec has made a recommendation of a service, and the service is called Impressive Comics. And Impressive Comics, the gentleman there is named Mr. Kendra. And Mr. Kendra has done a great job with Spec, and I trust Spec pretty much with his recommendation. This board is 7.5 by 11.5 in distance. I got it from Gemini. Gemini is where you get some of the boxes for your comics if you're ever going to be selling your comics or anything of that nature, and sending them via eBay. In this box here is actually 3 inches deep, 9 by 12 inches. I have some cushion in there, but that's going to come after the fact. And as you can see, the comic book fits in there perfectly. Now, I'll get this next one in. These are going to be comics that I'm going to be sending out. This one is Uncanny X-Men number 120. This is the first introduction to Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight, it is my belief that Marvel, who does not always follow what people think that they're going to do, they're tricky little devils, I think that they're going to introduce Alpha Flight into the Marvel Universe. Why? Well, there's a big market up in Canada, and what better way to make sure that that market is following what you're doing, of course Marvel is worldwide, but to have Canadian heroes, and that's what Alpha Flight is. As you can see on the rear, because of the tab, this allows whoever is getting the book to be able to take it off easy enough. Now what I do is that this box can easily carry 10 books, but I'm going to probably wind up putting 7 books in there, because between each book I'm going to have this little piece of plastic also that you can get from, you know, UPS or something of that nature, and I keep that in between each comic. Now one of the things that I want you to know is that once I've gotten all the comics together, let's grab another, okay, that's going to be good enough. Also the second appearance of Alpha Flight, this is X-Men 121. After I've gone ahead and gotten all these books together, I tend, and of course I don't have it, oh, do I? No. But I have another piece of plastic similar to this plastic that I wrap around it and tape it so that it now becomes so that it's not moving at all. I place it in the box, seal the box, and off it goes. Well, I'm a 60-plus-year-old gentleman, and I've been into comic books for a number of years, and I actually have in my possession the first comic book that I remember ever reading, and it's very, very important to me. You know, we have these memories, and they become very, very important, and there are seminal events in our lives. And one of the seminal events in my life was reading comic books, because it helped me develop a pretty decent vocabulary. It gave me an interest in all number of things, from science fiction to science technologies and things of that nature, astronomy. And it became very, very important, an important part of my life. So this is the very first comic that I ever read. That's Superboy number 86. And as you can see, it's 10 cents. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long I've been reading comic books. And back in that same particular area of time, I remember I also read this book, Justice League number 7. So I'm not going to tell you the dates and the years of these books, but I'm going to let you get an idea of that, and perhaps we might even have a little game later on, a little contest. We'll see how we work it out, if this works it out well. Okay, why do you get your comic books prepared in the way in which you do? Well, when I originally started sending comic books out to get them graded through CGC, because I heard about CGC, I was really, really a newbie and didn't understand that there's preparation that you have to have beforehand. That preparation is that for those comic books that are worth it to you, and it should only be comic books that are worth it to you, that you're going to have to get those comic books cleaned and pressed. That means that they go through a certain dry cleaning process that kind of gets rid of some of the loose stains, maybe some fingerprints that are on them. Sometimes they can even whiten up some of the white pages that have been a little bit aged and got a little bit of grime on them over the years, and to get them pressed. Even when you get new comics, these modern, what we would call modern comics that come out, sometimes how they come out from the shop is that they will not necessarily be in the best condition, so you should get those pressed also. All right, I would advise that in order for you to get the best grade that you can get possible. Some of my mistakes, I was so proud, but I made such a mistake. I sent this out, sight unseen, to get graded. I didn't clean it, I didn't press it, and I can look and I can see certain things, defects that are here that if I had gotten it pressed and cleaned, this grade would have gone up. So I'm going to send them out to Impressive Comic Books. I will ask them to crack this slab and to redo it. Hopefully I'll get a 9.8 out of it. This was another one of my failures. Watchman Number One. Now I have multiple copies of Watchman Number One, but I sent this one out because I thought this was the best one. They're all pretty good shape. But as you can see, I got a 9.6. Again, I did not clean and I did not press it, and I can actually see some fingerprints in the back over here that might have impacted the score that I got, the grade that I got. So I'll ask Impressive Comics, Mr. Kendra, to go ahead, crack this slab, clean and press it, and then we'll see. Hopefully it'll come back as a 9.8. There's a significant change in the amount of value for the comic book, as you know, if you have a 9.8 versus a 9.6. One of the things that I'll recommend to anybody that's new is that if you have a comic book that's black, go purchase yourself some of these vinyl gloves. All right? The vinyl glove, when you are touching a black book, this is Akira number 1. This was actually put out by Marvel. I believe it was in their Empire, rather epic comic grouping. This was the first manga comic that was sold in North America. At least that's my belief of it. I think that goes back as far as, I want to say 1982, 1981, 1983, around that time. Most of my collection, the reason why I put the gloves on is because when you have black or any comic book, you can get your fingerprints on it. If you get your fingerprints on the book, you know, sometimes there are oils in your hand, and that will take that will give a smudge, or the oils themselves will cause the fingerprint to go there, and it can obscure the value of the comic. So buy yourself some gloves. Cheap enough investment, makes it very, very easy for you. That's a small tip that I would say, that when you're handling some of those books, that's what you should use. That's part of my toolkit. So I get them prepared, pressed and clean, and then, as I said, I'm going to have them sent out to CGC. I have about 25 comic books that I'm going to send on out, and I'm going to hope against hope that I'm going to get a sufficient number of good books back. These are the books that are going out. Great to have this in your collection. Spider-Man 300. Looks pretty good. Great corners. This one looks a little bit smudgy, but I don't know whether or not that can be pressed on out. I'm hopeful about this being a 9.8, but it might be a 9.6, no less. I'm going to show you these comic books very, very quickly so that you know what I have going out. I kind of put them in an order. Secret Wars, when the black suit came on out. Secret Wars number 8. You'll see that most of my comics come from the Copper or the Bronze Age. I have lost, sold, traded multiple collections before I knew what I was doing. I even gave some away to a girlfriend's kids. How stupid was I? I don't even remember the kid's name, and I hardly remember the girl's name. Her name was Betty. So I do remember. And they were some really, really early Silver Age books. Before Fantastic Four came out, those books that were Tales of Suspense and Tales Tales to Astonish. Stupid me. We all have these bad stories. I got stories about my mother also, but everybody has a story about mom. Spider-Man 316. I believe that this is actually the second time that Venom was on the cover, but this is the first full Venom on the cover. It's a nice book. This one is really, really sharp all around. I'm very hopeful about that. I am the master. I'm telling you, the master of always having comics that are just not the perfect book. I don't know why. I just don't. For whatever reason, I always miss the great book by one. I have Hulk, Incredible Hulk, number 179. But of course, the books that are important are Hulk 180 and 181. What can I tell you? That's what my luck is. This is Albedo number 3. Now, Albedo number 3 is the second appearance of Usagi Yoshimo. Now, if you have that in a great, you have that in great shape, that's worth maybe about, $7,000, maybe $8,000, and I've seen even higher prices. Now, this is in really, really fabulous shape right here. So maybe a 9.6 on this, I'm hoping. I'll let you guys know. But I do have the number 1 Usagi Yoshimo when he first appeared in his own book. The colors on this are fantastic. They look great. They're gorgeous. Great looking colors. Beautiful comic book. My interests were in DC Comics originally, but eventually I shifted over to Marvel comic books. DC Comics were usually like one-shot comic books when they came. You would see that, the stories didn't necessarily go on beyond one comic book, but Marvel did a different thing. Their comics sometimes, although they were mostly one-shot, the development of the characters, you start seeing certain traits that would occur with comic books, teenagers having problems like Spider-Man, identity problems like in the Fantastic Four, and it was very, very interesting to me. But unlike a lot of people, well, maybe most people were like me, I was originally attracted to comic books by the art. When the cover was gorgeous, all of a sudden I see this artwork and it was like, wow, that great cover, I want to read it. And that's why I originally would pick it up. But then you started becoming interested in the storyline, and then you would have your Chris Claremonts, your obviously your Stan Lee, and your artists, Steranko, Romita Jr., so many, but of course there was Kirby. And I started really become interested in comic books, and I loved the Fantastic Four. And I love Kirby. I love Kirby's Thor. I love Kirby's Fantastic Four. I love Kirby's Avengers, all of that. When Kirby left Marvel, I mourned, but I heard that he was going to DC, and he did. And he entered into what was called the Fourth World. That was New Gods, Forever People, and Mr. Miracle. But originally, where he started out was in Jimmy Olsen. So I treated myself to not a high grade one, but I treated myself to this Jimmy Olsen, where it is actually the first time that Darkseid became, well, his first appearance. Now, if all of you are like me waiting for the new Justice League, the Snyder Cut, which this, right now today is Wednesday, the 17th of March. Thursday, the 18th of March is when the Snyder Cut comes out. I'm waiting with bated breath. It looks so major league cool. First time we saw I saw the final trailer with obviously it had the Green Lantern, but also perhaps the Martian Manhunter. And I love me some John Jones. But that's another thing. But again, I got into the fourth world, and I see the dark side is going to come. Now you have, this is one of the books that's getting ready to go on out. New Gods, number 1, Orion. And Ava DuVernay, I believe is her name, is getting ready to do New Gods. I'm hoping that they're going to do a great job. I understand that Marvel is going to be doing a great job with the Eternals, which was also a Kirby vehicle, and can't wait for that to happen. I'll show you these quickly. These are going to get graded. The Black Racer, New Gods number 3. Not in that greatest shape, unfortunately. Maybe a 9.0 if I'm lucky, but probably more like an 8.5, but not bad. Forever People number 1. Horrible looking cover. I don't know why they did this. It's not a great cover, but I don't care. It's number 1, and this is actually in pretty good shape. You know, no color rubs, great corners, maybe a 9.8. Who knows? Mr. Miracle number 1. This is definitely a 9.8. Everything is sharp about this book. No problems. Well, a small tick, but sometimes you get a 9.8 with even a little small color break. So I'll be hopeful. We'll see what's happening. We'll see whether or not the grader is in a good mood. Mr. Miracle number, I believe it's number 2, yes. Big Barter, Granny Goodness, who we know is in the Snyder Cut. Should do very, very well to see that. I love Todd McFarlane, Classic Hulk 340. Batman number 423, also another classic McFarlane cover. This one really is in great shape. This is like really, really sharp. That corner could be a little bit better. Yeah, we'll see what we get. Swamp Thing, number 37. I believe it's number 37. Yeah, number 37. The first John Constantine. You know, DC Comics, along with Marvel, they're really leaning into a lot of their mystical, celestial characters. And I think that this is going to do pretty well. We'll see. Sandman, number 1. Neil Gaiman. I became really, really accustomed to certain authors, Gaiman, Alan Moore. Those, you know, the writers were really became important as artists as I got a little bit older in the industry looking at it. And then I had these. As I told you before, I've always been the person that would get the, not the main comic, but the next comic. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I have number 1, but the 4th edition. It's the first time that they were in color, but again, the 4th edition. I don't know how well we'll do with that, but it's a great book. But I have number 8, number 9. Now, of course, I didn't have Raphael, who was the one-shot. Again, I missed out on it, but I did have the one-shots of everybody else. Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Donatello. Predator number one. Marvel has purchased the rights to this property, this intellectual property, and you're seeing a lot of Alien and Predator being shown. I'm looking forward to this Predator doing well. This was in Dark Horse, and this was the first issue of Predator with Dark Horse. Beautiful colors, everything is great. And of course, I have primer number one. I have primer number 3, 4, 5. I didn't have primer number 2, which was Grendel, but this one has primer number 3, and it had Sam Keith's Max the Hare, which was an important intellectual property, and it's in great shape. I'm gonna move very, very quickly right now. Some of the comic books that I'm reading right now, you see it on the table, but I'm really, really impressed. And this was a Spec Collector that told me about this one. The Untamed, A Sinner's Prayer. This is the Asundra universe. The author is Sebastian Jones. Great group is Stranger Comics. If you have an opportunity, they're getting ready to have a, this Saturday, the 20th, they're getting ready to have a convention. You should be able to watch that. If you can, you should watch it. Part of the Asundra universe is Niobe. Niobe is the protagonist, and you really, really have to read this series. The channels that I like to that I really like to watch, and as I was saying, a Spec Collector, and I'm going to name these. Spec is the only one I'm going to name outside of the alphabetical order. Spec Collector. I love listening to this gentleman. He's so well informed, and he tells you about the business of collecting and some mistakes that you can make. He also makes recommendations. Through his recommendation, I went ahead and picked up this. Now, I picked up Ha Ha before, but this particular property came out, and I got the version of it, and it looks very, very good. He also told me about I think it's called Black Cape comic books. They have this artist called Zoo Orza. Now, Zoo Orza does some of these beautiful paintings on their comic books. This is Carmen. Magnificent looking work. Now, this one I found on my own, ENAC. Now, I'm fortunate that I got the original one, ENAC. This was something that I found out through Key Collector. Key Collector is one of the really, really good apps that are out there that gives you some early information and is recommended by Comic Tom. And Comic Tom is one of the YouTube channels that you should follow. But I found this one through Key Collector. Really, really fantastic storyline. But I was going to tell you, the YouTube channels that do excellent work is, as I said, Spec Collector, Comics by Bueller, Como Comics. I have to give a shout out to my guy, Cool Stuff Collectibles. This gentleman, I think he's Washington based. I got to go out with him. He gets some of the best comics at some of the best prices ever. He gets them in dollar bins. He does it all the time. So wherever he's shopping, I got to go shopping with this guy because I got to go on the hunt with him because he's excellent. His name is Cool Stuff Collectibles. Of course, Comic Tom 101. If you haven't watched anything, it was Comic Tom 101's YouTube site that got me into really understanding all of the particulars about the comic book industry and some inside stuff. So if you haven't seen it, you really should. You'll have Russ, and you have the Golden Age Guru. This whole crew is so knowledgeable, and Comic Tom just had an excellent interview with Tom McFarlane. I think it's 5 parts. Well, it's up to the 5th part now. So interesting about Tom McFarlane, and I even found out that I have some of Tom McFarlane's earliest works. Before anybody knew who he was doing some work with this comic book called Infinity Inc. And they mentioned it during the course of the interview, and I said, I think I got some of those. I went back, I had like 6 copies of Infinity Inc. that Tom McFarlane actually did the covers on, so who knows, maybe I might get something good out of that group. Do buy a lot of the modern stuff, but buy stuff that you like. However you make those decisions about what you like. And today's junk is tomorrow's grail. That's what it is. Today's junk is tomorrow's grail. And you never know what's going to be the holy grail. Now, you know, some modern pieces of work can become holy grails immediately because of the work that's been done on them. You know, all of a sudden they take off like lightning and they have staying power, like the Amazing Spider-Man 300. I think that that's going beyond grail, that's going to become a holy grail. It won't be like Tales of Suspense number 39, the original Iron Man, which I had, but I sold. Again, I tell you, I don't make great decisions all the time. Like, if you're going to go into this as part of a business too, treat it like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett tells you to buy what you know. Now, I know comics, so I buy comics. And I know something that I look at, and I look at the cover and everything. Did I know that Akira was going to be hot? No, but one of the local comic book store, the gentleman that was there, an older man, he said, oh, why don't you buy a couple of these? You never know what's going to happen. So I have a couple of those. I have multiple copies of the Dark Knight series. I have multiple, I don't know why he didn't give me that first Albedo with Usagi Yoshimo. That would have been nice, but enjoy what you buy, but buy what you enjoy, and again, buy what you know. Now, what I do know is that I think that Marvel comic books is going to start getting into what we see what's happening in WandaVision. You know, everybody understands they're getting ready to go into these mystical realms and the celestial realms, you know, the Celestials, the Eternals. Of course, Doctor Strange, the second movie that's getting ready to come out, where Wanda as the Scarlet Witch is going to be one of the antagonists. But who knows what, you know, who else is going to appear in there? Maybe Nightmare, maybe Eternity, maybe Infinity. Dormammu is going to perhaps make another appearance. Maybe Sidorak, who knows? But I expect a little bit on some things. I just got this book in, actually today, and I have one coming tomorrow. That's Marvel Spotlight number 4 and 5, and it has to do with the Darkhold. I think the Darkhold is going to be an important piece, but I also went ahead and I had these, and I think that Man-Thing is going to be a part of this new realm that's coming out. Let me put this over here. Son of Satan. Now you notice that all of them are not 9.8s because I can't afford it. My wife would throw me out. I'd be sleeping somewhere else. But I got the ones that I could afford. Ghost Rider, number 1. Now it's not his first one. First appearance, I can't afford that, not yet. But maybe I sell a couple of these moderns and build up enough money to let the collection take care of itself. But this 8.0 is a beautiful looking comic book. Brother Voodoo, who I think is going to become the master of the mystic arts. He's really a powerful mage or sorcerer or wizard, whatever you want to call him. Again, I went ahead and got some more of the Man-Things. I think Man-Thing is going to be like a center character, not very important, but it's going to be there. And so you have it. My recommendations to you, please, by all means, make sure that you buy what you like. I didn't name everybody I mentioned Comic Tom. Please, you absolutely have to look at Gem Mint. Gem Mint has his own channel, and him and Mrs. Gem Mint are there. They're funny. He has the best statues. He has a countdown of new comics that I find that are usually the best. He's so good, so funny, so informed. Pressable Defects, usually 3 to 4 persons that are there. They are fantastic to look at. Very Gary Comics. You have to look at Very Gary Comics. When he goes out on a hunt, his hunt is the best. He comes back and he tells you certain things about places that you should go when you're out, where you should go get something to eat. Gary, if you ever get a chance to listen to this, go to Gabby's Pizzeria on Hillside Avenue in Queens. That's really, really great pizza. It's not a thin crust, but the cheeses are fantastic. And I'm telling you, I am an old school Brooklyn boy that grew up in a community that was with Italians and Jews and black guys and Asian guys. That's the kind of school I went to. And we had the greatest pizza. So I'm a pizza snob. Gabby's Pizza is pretty doggone good on Hillside Avenue. Just saying. My great misfortune is always that I don't have enough time to talk to you guys. I'll probably wind up cutting a lot of this stuff on up. This is my first time making a video. I don't know whether or not I'll do it again. I'm having a lot of fun though talking with you, and I hope that you're having fun listening to me. I try not to be, look, I ain't the sharpest blade in the drawer, and I don't know all the stuff that these other gentlemen know about comic books. But I do know a bit about the Silver Age because that's when I grew up. I could tell you panels of certain things that happened and occurred, a certain panel in a certain comic book at a certain time, and try to put it into perspective about what was happening in the world at that time. And you could see how comics changed and they were topical. And I believe that they remain topical and it's very important. But as a kid, I thought that it was important to me to have comic books in my life because it helped me gain a vocabulary. It gave me an escape that was a healthy escape. And I believe that, share your comic books with your kids. All right. Now, some comic books, obviously, you can't. They're not appropriate for it. The Asundra universe, Sebastian Jones and the Untamed, they have a comic line for kids that you can look at. I think it's very, very good, healthy information, great stuff. But again, when you have an opportunity, please share your comic books with your kids when you can. As I told you, another comic book, Gobbledygook, but this is Gobbledygook, this is the reprint. Not worth diddly. That's what I got. And to end it though, what's going out? I have another Wolverine besides the one that I have slabbed. I have a couple more of these. I'm going to send them on out. Try to get them graded, cleaned. But these are a couple of Silver Age ones that I found. This is going out. Wish me luck on it. I hope to get maybe a 7.0, maybe a 7.5, maybe 7.5 on this. This is the second appearance of Nightmare with Doctor Strange. And this one, this may be a 8.0, maybe a 7.5, maybe 7.0, who knows. But Amazing Spider-Man number 22, I don't know where they turned up. All of a sudden I go out and I find a new box in my garage and I get some comic books, and that's what I find, that they all of a sudden they make some appearances. So hopefully I have another box out there. I have quite a few comic books in the collection. I'll bring them out on occasion. I'll drop some on the table. Hopefully you'll get an idea of some of the stuff that I'm reading and that you're reading, and it is my hope that you guys will enjoy the comic books that you read. Now, I was going to try to do a trick with you, but I'm not able to do it. But if you remember, I told you that there might be a giveaway. I have to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to do it, see what happens with this. But if you can if you can tell how old I was when I read my first comic book, based upon some of the information that you see, there might be something in it for you. Hey guys, take good care, be well, talk with you soon, peace.